joining. All right, that's something new. Is that something you did, Josh?
I believe it was in the update.
Oh, okay, great. All righty, folks. So we'll start with approval of the minutes from our last meeting on the 19th. Thank you, Josh, for the fine job you did on these. So has everyone had a chance to review them? If so, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Hi, Thomas Golden, motion to approve the meeting minutes from the May 19th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Hi, Cleone, second.
Thank you, Cleone. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call on the minutes, please.
Hey, Ed,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you all. All right, next item is public comment. I don't see any citizens on. Is there anybody in the waiting room, Josh?
No.
No. Okay. Then we'll move by that one. And we'll get right into old business. So we're going to kind of pick up on where we were last meeting. We completed the reviews of the first two public forums, and we have the final one from the 15th to go through tonight, which is pretty lengthy. But we did have a couple of follow-ups from the last meeting that I'd like to start with first. So I'm going to share my screen. Host disabled participant screening. Josh, can you give me screen share capabilities, please?
Yeah, you should be all set.
There we go. All right. Okay, so this was the, I had sent this file out before our last meeting, but this is what we were, I had used to kind of track the feedback from the forums. What I did was I went in here, basically color-coded stuff to say, you know, we either agreed with it, we didn't agree with it, we did something, or if it's in yellow, it's still pending. So the first page here were things that either I had received emails from people on, or things that were pointed out by members of the committee here, or whatever. So the follow-ups on this page were section 9.7. This was Janet had raised the question about the fact that we had identified in section 6D, the computation of time, but yet in the section 9.7 under the appointing authority, we were using within 10 business days. So she was saying, shouldn't we be consistent? So Tom went through the charter, and I think you found, what, 58 occurrences, Tom? Something like that, 58
Yeah.
occurrences of, you know, business days or days in general. So he went through and identified those and made updates to those to be consistent with what was in computation of time. So basically that is anything 7 days or less is treated as a business day, and anything over 7 days or more is treated as a calendar day. So what I did was I went into the charter and I updated the charter today with all the changes that Tom had come up with. So I will show you those. I'm going to stop sharing this document and show you the charter. So basically anything that you see in here that is yellow, I could do a find if you want and just kind of go through them, but it would take a lot of time to go through this. So I'm just going to have to ask that you trust me. We'll look at a couple of them here. That's not one of them. That's something different.
Ed, do you want me to share my screen that has the paragraphs?
I mean, you can, if you want.
It might just be easier.
Sure.
Okay. And it's got them highlighted in red. Oh. So like section 2.3, before it said should not exceed 7 days. I changed it to 5 business days. Same down here, 7 days to 5 business days. 7 days each, 5 business days. Things that were like 10, 30, 30, 14 or easy, I just added calendar after them. The only substantive changes ones are the ones that Janet brought up, or the ones that towards the end of the charter where it said 10 business days, that becomes 14 calendar days, 10 business days, 14 calendar, 10, 14.
Because you have to include the weekends.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. But so what I did is took every paragraph that the word days showed up in, and then just adjusted it to follow that paradigm. So that's that.
So at this point, the charter has been sort of reconciled with that, the computation of time that we put in place. So I think, Janet, we would thank you for bringing that up, and I think we've addressed that at this point. So I guess what I would suggest we do is vote on this as a global change, similar to the other changes that we made that were general in nature, if that's okay. Or does somebody prefer going through the whole charter and looking at them individually?
Global change.
Okay. All right, then I will accept a motion to approve the changes as discussed to the entire charter, to update, to reconcile with the computation of time calculation.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to approve those changes throughout the charter.
Okay, is there a second?
Hi, Janet.
I,
second.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call on this one, please.
Ed,
Are you clear on the motion?
yes.
Okay, yes, I approve. All right. Oh, yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Cleone,
yes,
Janet,
Yes,
Darren.
Yes,
Thank you. The
Can you-
motion was approved.
okay.
Hi, Darren, welcome.
I'm having some technical difficulties, like camera's not working and, well,
It's all right, we can hear you. Can you see us?
yes,
Good, okay, because I'm going to share my screen. I want to make sure you can see it. All right, so I'm going to go back to this document. So essentially now we have taken care of all this stuff here in yellow. So I'm going to make that green now. Okay, the other one here, this has to do with if this really addresses the situation where somebody who is an incumbent chooses not to run again, but gets enough write-in votes, even though they didn't get on the ballot. They have write-in votes. So this addresses that particular scenario. This was sent to me in an email, so I put together a response. So I want to review that with you to see if you agree with it. So this is in section 25B. So I'm going to go back to the charter. So let's see, 25D. So we have a section here that talks about filling of vacancies. You know, if there's a vacancy at either the counselor at large or the district counselor, and there's no available candidate to fill the vacancy, then it talks about how that is handled. What I added in item D here is the following. In the event where an eligible incumbent is reelected by write-in, the city councilor will have a 10-day period to decide whether to serve another term. If the city council decides not to accept the position, the city council will treat the position as a vacancy starting January 1st, the day after the term ends. The city council will then manage the vacancy as described in 25C.
I don't understand. I don't understand it.
Okay, so do you understand the situation I'm trying to address here, Janet?
Not really.
Okay,
I missed
So
something.
we have a city councilor who decides not to run. So they do not pull papers. And there's no one, say for either the district or at large, it's an empty position. But somebody, some people decide to write in the incumbent, the person who chose not to run. So say the incumbent gets 10 write-in votes. You with me? So because they got the 10 write-in votes, they are now technically elected back into the position. But they've chosen not to run. They didn't pull papers. So what this basically does is gives that counselor 10 days to decide now whether they want to reconsider their decision not to run or not. And after the 10-day period, if they decide to accept the position, then they serve another term. If they decide not to serve, then the city council will treat the position as a vacancy starting January 1st, which is when the term begins, the new term begins. And the city council will then manage the vacancy as described in 25C up here. So they'll go through an appointment process to appoint somebody from either that district or somebody townwide for an at-large position.
Okay,
It's kind of a very unique situation, but it could happen. And somebody asked me about it, and I said, you know, it's a good point. We don't have anything in the charter that addresses it, so this is what I came up with.
Ed, can you scroll up so we can see A and B?
Sure.
Oh, it won't fit. Okay.
They're essentially, A and B are essentially the same. One's for councilor at large and one's for district. The difference is because the councilor at large is running townwide, it requires 30% of the votes. And this was stuff we didn't change. This was in the charter to begin with. Now, the only other thing that I did look, I happened to catch this in the 25C, which is where they, this section called filling of vacancies. It says right now to be eligible for election by the city council. It's really appointment. I mean, the city council is going to vote, but they're going to vote to appoint somebody. They're not really going to elect somebody. So I think we should replace the word election with appointment. Here and down here where it says persons appointed to fill a vacancy by the city council shall serve blah, blah, blah. So any thoughts on this?
just have one question. Am I missing where it says starting January 1st? Is that, I mean, the elections are in April. Am I missing somewhere else in the charter about January 1st? Term,
Yeah, so in this case, right, so the election would be, say, that in the end of April. If the counselor decides after 10 days not to take the position, then the position is vacant until January 1st. So it would be, you know, from May through the end of the year will be vacant. Then they will manage the vacancy after January 1st.
oh, because it says starting January 1st. That's why I was confused.
Yeah, okay, you're right. So if the city councilor decides not, the city will treat the position as a vacancy.
The day after the term ends until January 1st? Should it be reversed?
Yeah, I think you're right. Let me think about this. The terms actually, hello?
No, Ed, I was just saying that I think you could just end the sentence after the word vacancy.
Right here, you mean?
Yes, because if you think about it, the terms really don't have an end date. They end when the next successor is qualified. So there's really no end day. January 1st, as Janet pointed out, it doesn't seem to fit here.
Okay, so if I put a period there, remove this piece here, leave the last sentence,
Yes.
okay,
Does that make sense?
it does, yep. Okay. Any other comments?
I wanted to suggest we make edit to the first sentence where you have in the event where an eligible incumbent is reelected, instead put in the event an eligible incumbent is, I don't think you need where.
Okay. Thank you, Cleone.
And I wanted to just put out on the table the second part of that. The city council will have, city councilor will have a 10-day period to decide whether to serve another term. What's everyone's thought about to accept another term or accept being elected? Versus decide whether. Is it something that we're looking for them to accept it's not a nomination, but the election results?
I mean, I think it's, right, it seems like it's maybe more of a semantic issue here. I mean, we are asking them to make a decision on whether or not they want to continue to serve. So I think it's worded okay. I mean, could it say accept another term? I guess it could, but. Anyone else?
To decide whether or not to accept
Whether to,
just to accept, I mean, because you're asking him if he wants to, I don't know. I see what Cleone's saying.
And it is semantics, right? So I would, just so that it complements the next sentence, then maybe, because you said if the city councilor decides not to accept the position, so is it a position? So just making sure both sentences complement each other, should we then change position to say another term?
not to serve.
So that we're not mixing terms,
So it could.
except not to accept. Mm-hmm.
Is that better?
Looks better, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Cleone. Okay, is anyone willing to make a motion to approve this at this point?
I, Scott Pitta, move to approve the amendments as presented.
Is there a second?
Thomas Golden will second.
Okay, thank you, Cleone. Any further discussion? Okay, Scott, we'll need a roll call on this, and this is the addition of section 2.5 D as in David.
Ed,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
Darren.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you all. And just to go back up to these appointments, these two items here in yellow under C, to be eligible for appointment, it should say instead of election, and it should say persons appointed, not persons elected. I just think that's, it's clearer than the alternative.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, would you like to make a motion to approve it?
I approve the changes in 25C from removing the word election and replacing it with an appointment, and
Okay,
appointment, and appointed.
Okay, is there a second?
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Thank you, Darren. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call on this one as well. Changes to 25C.
Ed,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
Darren.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right. So that brings us back to this document. So we've cared for all of these. If I scroll down, you'll see that we've cared for many of the ones from 511, but we still had a couple of open ones here. So David Moore had talked about the fact that he thought the what we had added into 9.1 and 9.2 was sort of repetitious of the state ethics regulations. He said it seemed redundant. And he suggested putting a blanket statement in, which we did insert the blanket statement. I did go back and do some more research on the first comment. And I just want to let you know what I found. So Section 268A of Mass General Law, which is entitled The Conduct of Public Officers and Employees, really what it does is it sets a minimum standard for ethical conduct. So it's a baseline that all cities and towns in Massachusetts have to follow, but it's just a minimum standard. So if there is additional things that cities and towns want to put in their charters or their bylaws to sort of beef it up a little bit or strengthen it, they can do that. Section 25 of 268A does talk about a suspension of someone who has been indicted on a ethics complaint. But, and then it talks about, what happens during that indictment process as far as their pay and their position and everything else. But then it just says, if they are found not guilty, then everything goes back to normal. It doesn't say if they're found guilty, what happens. So it's empty in terms of that. Section 26 does talk about a violation in certain penalties and even imprisonment, but it's only specific to receiving anything of substantial value, like getting a bribe from a company or something, or making false claims. It only addresses those two particular items in terms of penalties or imprisonment. So from what I can tell, there's really not a lot in 268A, MGL 268A, which talks anything about anyone that's convicted of a criminal offense, what happens to them, or anybody that's been convicted of a state ethics violation. So based on that, I really don't think what we have in the charter is redundant. And I did have a conversation with Dave Moore about this yesterday, and he seems okay with it now that I've explained to him the research that I did. So let me just go back to the charter real quick so you can look at it. So this was the blanket statement that we added right here. I think we did that at our last meeting. All members of city government are expected to adhere to MGL 268A and all applicable state regulations concerning behavior as a public official. So that was that. Oh, the other ones were up in actually 2-1D, sorry. So these were the two prohibitions. The first one was if you're convicted of a criminal offense involving misconduct in any elective or appointed public office, we're basically saying that you shall not be eligible to serve in any other elective or appointed office or position in the city, period. So that's kind of a lifetime ban. The second one here was written the same way, but it will only address convicted of a state ethics law violation. And it was also a lifetime ban, but I said to myself afterwards, maybe that's a little too tough. Do we want to ban somebody for life, depending on what the state ethics law violation is? So maybe we could lessen that up a little bit, maybe say for a period of some number of years. And I just said for a period of 12 years, but I wanted to run that by you guys to see what your thoughts are on it. Because there were a couple of citizens that actually said they thought this was a little too strong. Dave was one of them, and I forget the other person was. It was a woman. But anyways, any thoughts on that?
Wouldn't it depend on what it is?
You mean as far as the ethics law violation?
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, even a criminal only has a certain amount of years that they serve for something and then they're out. But I don't know, I guess I have mixed feelings on whether or not they should still be allowed to serve.
Okay, that's fair, Janet. Anyone else?
Did you determine best practices, what other communities are using by any chance?
I did not.
I
think
there's such a wide array of state ethics laws violations between, accepting a gift that's worth more than $50 to, lining your pocket with public funds. There's a huge difference in possible violations. But I
Right.
can see where this could seem a little heavy-handed. So, I mean, to that, my initial reaction was no, just keep it the way it is. But as I sit here thinking through it, if a public official or a counselor gets, somebody sends them a gift that's more than $50 and, they mistakenly accept it, do we want that person to be banned for life? Yeah, I'm not sure that's an appropriate punishment.
How about this? How about if we, instead of giving some time period, could we say that the council would make a decision on that? Each individual situation, like refer, in other words, if someone is convicted, then the council president would have to bring it before the rest of the council, and they would make a decision on what to do about it.
Do we have any concern about bias if we do it that way?
Possibly, I guess,
Yeah.
especially if somebody's friends with somebody else or whatever.
I mean, it is a town politics kind of like that. So
Yeah. But like Scott said, I mean, there's such a wide range of, violations from an ethics perspective. Most of them are financial, but you have lying and making false claims. And there's a whole bunch of other things that, are they serious? Yeah, but do they warrant a total ban from town government.
I don't believe so. I believe in rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Would it be that they'd have to somehow reviewed it again, it based on what was it that they were convicted of? What was the violation, you know, so
Could we say up to a period of some number of years per review of the town council?
Oh, see, I would do it the opposite. I would say a minimum of years.
Well, the problem with minimum, yeah.
minimum of 12 years?
But again,
Period of at least 12 years, you know, I mean, but then you'd still like, oh, what? I'm not sure how to word it, but
how about up to, I like actually up to, like, sort of the worst case scenario, up to a period of 12 years as decided by the town council, the city council.
I like
Well,
it.
No?
but up to could mean that, all right, in a year's time, they could serve again, you know.
Yeah, but like that might be okay, Janet, right? Like, so say someone gets a gift that they thought the fair value was $40, but then somebody says, no, it's worth 55. That's an ethics violation, right?
Right,
So
that's what I'm saying. It really depends on what it is. So to word it like that, then now what was the violation? That's hard. That's hard.
I'll throw out the language that the feds use to get out of pickles like these and see if we can massage it to work for us. As deemed reasonable is usually a way to get out of a specific time period, because based on those who tend to serve in local government, 12 years could be life, right? Because it's not the young people so at this time. So I do want to refrain from using that 12-year.
So Cleone, as deemed reasonable by whom?
That's what the debate is going to be, because
I'm just
the
going to
town council, yeah. So to Tom's point, what you mentioned and several of you agreed upon is that you feel that the town council, the majority, can be swayed by their relationship with someone who have violated the ethics. I just wanted to explore that a little bit more. Is that what's being said? We're trying to avoid that.
I think we're trying to avoid it, but they also have to take an oath of office. You know, I mean, it's not like because they might be friends with somebody, it would be so apparent. People would, I mean, people would see what's going on, and they have to be held accountable to the oath that they take. I mean, we do say somewhere in here, and I can't remember, but the council president, if there's a violation of the charter, remember we put in language that says if somebody violates the language of the charter, that has to be reported to the council president. And then the council president will work with the town manager to determine the consequences of that violation of the charter. So we're trusting the council president in that situation. Why wouldn't we trust them here too? Any other thoughts on this?
I don't know. It just seems odd having the town council potentially policing itself.
How about the council president? We just put, because as I said, we're giving the council president authority to address violations of the charter. So in this case, this would be referred to the council president. And I mean, in conjunction maybe with the city solicitor. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'd still feel more comfortable if we had a minimum time in there.
Could we
Yeah.
do both? A period of not less than 2 years, but not exceeding 12?
But so that's one thing, but who's going to decide it? I mean, Cleone said as deemed reasonable, which kind of covers the time frame. We can put a time frame in there if you want, but then who's going to decide if it's 2 to 5 years or 2 to 10 years? Who's going to make the decision?
I think that should be a council decision. I'd be comfortable if we had a minimum in there. I think 2 is too short, but that's just me.
So what if we just had something like a minimum of 3 years and left it at that?
Because the term is 3 years, isn't it?
We could say terms instead of years. We could say they have to sit out some number of terms.
I'd rather have just straight years. 'Cause if we do terms, then, somebody could split hairs over, well, I left with a month left in my last term, so that's 1 term.
Okay. So Scott, what would you be looking for in terms of verbiage here?
I think for a period of not less than 3 and no more than 12 as deemed reasonable by vote of the city council.
You said 12.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just read this again. Shall be deemed to have vacated office and shall not be eligible to serve in any other elective or appointed office or position in the city, comma. For a period of not less than 3 and no more than 12 years as deemed reasonable by the city council.
Then comes the question is, when does that time start? So let's say the person gets sent to prison for 5 years. Does that time start after they get out of prison and they're off parole and all of that? Or does it run concurrent?
Yeah, I mean, how detailed do we want to get here? Man.
I mean, the more detailed we get here, the less someone else down the road has to deal with it.
I know, but it's like we're opening up a can of worms here.
Convicted
Um,
doesn't necessarily mean in jail, does it?
I don't think there should be a maximum because there may be a case where the person should be banned for life.
Yeah.
So I mean, not less than 3 years, at least there's a minimum, but I don't think there should be a maximum because then that leaves the door open for someone where, but I
Okay.
think if it was that bad, they wouldn't be reelected or reappointed.
So you'd rather have it just for a period of not less than 3 years as deemed reasonable by the city council?
I could live with that.
Yeah. As far as when it starts, Scott, I mean, I think it starts when they've been finally convicted. Whatever that time frame is,
Yeah,
that's when the clock starts. So if they're in prison or whatever, then the clock is ticking.
Yeah, what I was trying to avoid is if somebody, if they get sentenced to the 5 years in state prison, and for some reason the city council only says, okay, well, we're going to ban them for 3 years. they come out of prison, they come right back into elected office.
Yep. Yeah, but it says not less than 3 years, right? So if somebody's put away for 5 years, don't you think that the council is going to take that kind of serious?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, I guess to your point, we do have to kind of put some faith in the council.
yeah, we do. You know, I really like the way we've amended this. I think it looks good, and it sort of lessens the finality of this particular one, and gives a little bit. It softens it a little bit more. I mean, I think number 4 should stay as it is. Criminal offenses. We don't want. I don't think we want anybody in our government that's been convicted of a criminal offense, right? I mean, so anyone feel like making a motion to approve the changes to 5, what, no, was it 21 D5?
Scott Pitta moved to approve the amendments as shown.
I, Thomas Golden, second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, Josh, we're gonna need a roll call on this. The changes are to 21 D5.
Ed,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Cleone,
No.
Janet,
I'm gonna say no.
Darren.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
what was that? What was the tally?
2 noes.
Okay. Okay, so coming back to the list here, so we just completed this one here. And we've addressed this one here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so from 511, we've pretty much taken care of that. 513, we addressed all those items. Everything's in green. We, address those. So now we get into 515. Before I get into this, anyone have any questions or comments you want to make?
On what we've discussed so far.
Anything before we get in here?
I will want to just question on Article 1, just the very first paragraph. So we don't have to discuss it right now. We can do it later, but it's just the way it's worded, and we changed everything from town to city. If you word that, it sounds like something needs to be changed on that first sentence, because it doesn't match. It says shall continue to be a body known as City of Bridgewater, but it was written to show that we changed government, but we're going to be continuing to be a town of Bridgewater. So I was just wondering if that sentence still applies, if we change everything from town to city, or if we should not change everything from town to city. I don't want to create a huge problem here, but I just noticed the way it was worded. I was just asking for an opinion on that.
Okay, well, I'm okay to look at that right now while you brought it up, Janet. That's okay. So let's go. So paragraph 1 here, section 1:1.
Article 1 about, yeah.
So the way it's written is the inhabitants of the city of Bridgewater within its territorial limits as now or may hereafter be established by law shall continue to be a body politic and corporate known as the city of Bridgewater. The city of Bridgewater shall constitutionally have a city form of government.
Yeah, it was written when we changed from a city form of government, from town to city form of government, but it was saying that we're going to keep, the way I take it is that we're going to keep to be known as town. So by changing city on that, it just doesn't seem to fit, in my opinion. I may be
So
wrong.
I guess I'm not, you just said something which I'm not clear on. You said we made a decision to still call ourselves a town.
Back when we were still called Town of Bridgewater. And when they switched the form of government from selectmen to council, that's a city form of government, correct?
Yes.
But I think when they did this charter, it was to, I took it that, because those cities that you have in there were towns. So it was to be known as the Town of Bridgewater.
So you're saying, Janet, I want to make sure I'm clear on what you're saying. You saying that these cities here, the 3 cities should say town?
Well, they did say towns, yeah, because
Right.
if you read it, it's the inhabitants of the town of Bridgewater within its territorial limits as now or may ever after be established by law shall continue, the word continue to be a body I'm saying it wrong, and corporate known as the town of Bridgewater. The city of Bridgewater shall constantly have a city form of government. I don't know, maybe I'm overreading it. It just felt like it was a sentence that was applied to when we were keeping the word town, even though we
Yeah.
had a city government. That's how I took it. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If it still fits by changing everything to city, I was just thinking if we're changing everything to city, then maybe that sentence isn't correct.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying now. Thanks for clarifying that. So maybe, I mean, maybe we take out continue to. The inhabitants of the city of Bridgewater, as now or may be established by law, shall be a body politic and corporate known as the city of Bridgewater. The city of Bridgewater shall constitutionally have a city form of government.
Right, so I was thinking either that paragraph was gonna have to change, or you would have had to put everything back to town instead of
Mhm.
city. So those were your 2
Okay.
options.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Is this something we need to address? Do everyone understand what Janet's saying?
Yeah. Yes, I do understand what she's saying. Good catch.
Okay. So any suggestions on how to modify it?
It's not a wrong statement, right? It's just repetitive.
I mean, it's not incorrect the way it's currently, what we're looking at here. It's not incorrect.
Right, okay.
But I think what Janet is saying is maybe it could be confusing to somebody, or it's not as clear as it could be.
Yeah, I think, Ed, if you do take out continue to be, as you highlighted here, that should correct it. Make it more clear.
Shall be a body politic and corporate known as the city of Bridgewater. Yeah, that seems to do it to me too.
Yeah, I think that would solve the issue. Like I said, that should leave, or you'd have to make all those cities towns again.
Yeah, okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve the change we just made to section 1-1?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure. Well,
Okay, discussion afterwards.
yeah, let's make the motion and get seconded, and then we'll have discussion.
Okay. I, Janet, motion to accept the change in section 1-1.
I, Thomas Golden, second.
Okay, thank you, Janet and Tom. All right, now we can have discussion.
Would that stop? Would that require us to have to change everything? We can still be called have the signs Town of Bridgewater or anything, would that cause an issue by having that in changed?
No, no,
Okay.
no. Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call on this. This is changes to section 1-1.
Ed,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes,
Scott,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yeah,
Janet,
Yes,
Darren.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
okay, thanks, Janet, for catching that. Where am I going here? Okay. All right, back to the document. So we'll start with Dennis Gallagher. He said, did we consider adding a mayor to our form of government? I think the answer to that is no, but I mean, it was so long ago. Does anyone recall having that discussion?
I do not think we did.
No. Okay.
uh,
And so this obviously would change the form of government to a different form than we have right now. So this would be a major change if we decided we want to do that. There's different forms of mayors. Some mayors are like a figurehead, but there are others that actually have executive power. So it would, as I said, it would be a big change, and I'm not sure that at this point in the game would want to tackle this, but I guess the answer to this is no, we didn't consider it, right?
right,
Okay. Dennis was happy that we modified the term limits. He said, glad the charter defines it, but until a successor is qualified, the current person stays until someone chooses to run. So his question is, how does term limits that we are proposing work if no one comes forward to run? So, and then the town council the example here is the town council did not appoint anyone in Peter Columbotus's district this past April. Peter chose not to run. Oh, no, he did. He did choose to run, didn't he? This past election, I guess it was the prior election, 2020. He did not run, and so his position was vacant. So he's just stayed on from May through basically up until this current election. And remember, he resigned. He pulled a Bill Wood, he resigned, and then got back on the ballot and, got back in. So, so Dennis's question, I guess, is the way we've defined term limits impact, or how does it address any of this? And I think, I mean, a term limit is a term limit. It basically says you can't serve more than this period of time. And we said you can't serve more than four elections, right? You can't be elected to office more than 4 times, 12 years. So how does term limits that we are proposing work if no one comes forward to run? It just seems like it's apples and oranges here. The fact that no one comes forward to run, that's a vacancy issue.
so it would revert back to what, whatever for vacancy would revert to that.
Right.
And term limits is based on election. It doesn't matter how long you served in that term. If you were elected, that's a term.
Right. And then he said, how do you address a vacancy when no one runs for the council? Well, that's identified in how to fill a vacancy.
Right,
That's where the council would appoint somebody. I mean, if there's no one, say in a particular district that wants to run, they have to go out and seek a person, whether they have to go door by door, they have to search out a person in that district, somebody that will run. I mean, I guess in a worst case position, if there's no one, you can't force anybody to run. So if a particular district doesn't have anybody, then and they can't fill the vacancy, then to me, the vacancy is unfilled. It stays unfilled until somebody's willing to either be appointed or run in the next election.
But they could not appoint somebody who's already met their term limit, right?
Correct. So again, I'm not sure, Dennis, this question A, I don't think term limits has anything to do with filling a vacancy. I think they're kind of mutually exclusive. Maybe his question is, I don't know, without actually having him here to elaborate on it, but and then he says, how to address a vacancy when no one runs. Well, that's that section that talks about how to fill a vacancy. So that's addressed. He's also glad that the clerk is staying elected, but wonders why make it a ballot question. Oh, I see what he's saying. So in my presentation, remember I said this would be one of the controversial, this potentially would be one of the controversial items. So he's saying, why make it a separate question? Since the charter doesn't have it appointed, it's currently elected in the charter, and we're going to leave it as elected. In the survey, basically the overwhelming majority of people say keep it elected, then why even have it as a ballot question? So that wouldn't be necessarily our decision. That's going to be the town council's decision on how to structure the rollout of the changes. And he's a town councilor, so he can have that discussion with his peers when the time comes.
Yeah,
But
I kind of agreed with what he was saying too, because we didn't change anything. So but if we were changing something, then it would be the way you had outlined it. So whether or not they decide to pull it and change it, go against what we do, then that would be one thing. But I agree with him, it's like, if we're not changing anything, why would it even have to be a ballot question? But
right.
I get what he
So
was saying.
I can certainly update the presentation and take it off if that's going to cause some people, some concern. But yeah, it's a good point. All right, so is there anything we need to do with Dennis's comments other than we just discussed them? My own feeling right now is that there's nothing we need to change in the charter based on his comments.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm just going to mark these as green, meaning we address them. All right, Carlton's got a whole bunch here. So his first one says we need to change from the city attorney to the city solicitor. He said most cities and towns refer to their attorney as the solicitor. So Scott, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
How do you feel about that? Do you think that's something we should be doing?
It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, it's a difference in a title.
Does one carry more weight than the other, or does it make a difference, or is it just semantics?
I've seen them both in local communities between city attorney, town attorney, solicitor. Tends to be the bigger cities use the term solicitor. Just my opinion, but
Okay. Okay. Does anyone feel strongly about changing to city solicitor at this point, or just leave it as attorney?
I say leave it. That's my opinion.
I think a lot of people don't really know what the term solicitor means, to be honest with you. If you're reading the charter and you see city solicitor, sounds like somebody, somebody that's soliciting something from you.
My thoughts exactly, Ed. I like city council attorney.
Me too. I don't feel like it doesn't sound as a way, important as attorney. I don't know what that means either. And it doesn't sound the same.
Okay, so do we want to vote on this or just kind of say, yeah, we don't agree with it?
I would
We
just.
don't agree.
I
Go ahead.
would be wondering why he would even say that. What's he thinking? And what's his reasoning for wanting to change it?
I think
So
it
it's
was
like we
just,
don't have enough information as to why he would even consider that.
yeah, I think it has to do more with sort of calling ourselves a city.
Yeah.
And I think he, like Scott said, it's more used probably in the bigger cities. So he just probably felt that it was a better term. Other than that, Darren, I don't think he had a real reason, So we'll just say at this point, we don't agree with it. So we're going to leave it as attorney. He also said, consider a 3 or 4 year term for the city manager instead of the 5-year. I believe did we already adjust that?
We did.
And we made it a 4-year, didn't we?
What, three? No, 4?
I thought we made it 4. Let me, that's
forget.
section 4. No, we made it a 3-year renewable term.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we agreed with him on that one. Okay, and then he said, consider looking at district versus precinct versus ward. He obviously got this from his wife, Marilee, the town clerk. She actually called me last week or the week before and said that she's, because the census was completed last year, she was contacted by the Secretary of State's office and told that we're going to need to do some redistricting in our town. And so Marilee is trying to find out that whole process. And, we're going to have to split up some of the precincts and so on and so forth. So at this point, we're not going to address this because she's not going to have all the information by the end of the month when we're done. So it's probably going to be something that the town council is going to have to address later on. Marilee did say to me that she has to finish all of her work by the fall and whatever she needs to do to, what do you call it? Align the town with what the state is asking her to do. So at this point, I'm just going to, I'm going to color this. What should I color this? I'm just going to make it red because we're not doing anything about it. All right. Carlton then said, when reaching a term limit, the city councilor should sit out 1 term before rerunning for a new council position. So remember, we've said that councilors can be elected to 4 times, essentially serve 4 terms. And he's saying if a district councilor, after completing the final term, hitting the term limit, wants to now run as a councilor at large, remember we said they can do that, he's saying they should sit out a term before rerunning for that new position, rather than jump right into it.
I don't know. I think we spent a tremendous amount of time refining the term limit provisions within the charter. And I think what we have is pretty solid. It's a good compromise between the different viewpoints that we had on this committee.
Okay. So Scott, by your comment, you're saying leave it as is and not consider this, right?
I think if we don't leave it as is, we have to reopen that entire can of worms and look at everything else within that term limits. And
Let's just.
I like what we have.
Okay, let's just, I'm just going to go to it real quickly here, just so people can see what we have. I mean, it's hard to remember. We've done so much. So we're talking about section 2(1)E, I believe. All right, term limits right here. So we're saying no person shall be eligible to be a district counselor if the service exceeds 4 elections. No person elected at large, same thing. You cannot be elected if you exceed 4 elections. And it's this last one here where it says, for the purpose of this section, prior service as an at-large counselor shall not prevent seeking election as a district counselor. Prior service as a district counselor shall not prevent seeking election as a at-large counselor. Now, we could add a statement right here that basically said any counselor considering re-election must sit out 1 term. It would be as simple as that. I don't, it's not like we're going to go in and do surgery, major surgery on what we've done here.
Yeah, but I think my point is we spent a lot of time on this provision in the charter.
Yeah.
And adding that changes it substantially at this point.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because I'm wondering.
go ahead, Cleone.
Thank you, Janet. I was wondering if we do put that language, does it mean that we need to account for the fact that we need to add language that indicates that we're not starting a new 4 election clock? So to Scott's point, I think that that additional statement would mean that we'd have to rework that, because it would, if you read it too quickly, it may imply that that interruption can start another 4 election cycle.
I agree with Cleone. Plus, they don't have to run consecutive. I mean, most people would end up doing consecutive terms, but they don't have to be consecutive. They can run for election, and then if they don't get elected the next time, or they decide to take time off and then they decide, you know, I think I'm going to run again. They don't, it doesn't have to be 4 elections in a row.
Right.
And also there may be somebody that we'd like, may not be in my district, is not my district counselor, but I like somebody else that, you know, I like him. He's not somebody I can vote for, but I would like him as a counselor at large. But if you make him take the time off, now we're without that person that may be good. So
Okay.
I don't think we need to add it. I just, I think sometimes people would read this and thinking it has to be 4 consecutive elections, you know, because they say, oh, they can be running for 8 years or serving for eight terms rather. And so it's, or 24 years. People don't realize it doesn't have to be consecutive.
Right. No, we want to stay away from the word consecutive. Okay, so I'm going to end this discussion by asking if, is there anyone that would like to make a motion to include something about skipping a term between elections? Okay, if there's no motion, then that will end that discussion. So I'm going to put a red on this one, say we didn't agree with this. Okay, next one, does not agree with section 27A. Go down to 27A. 27A is the section on measures. Remember, we changed it from 72 hours to 30 days. He says 30 days is too long. Feels should be 72 hours or maybe a week, but not 30. So let me pull the charter back up. Sorry, 27A. Except as required by Mass General Law, measures passed by the City Council shall be effective 30 calendar days after final passage or at a later date specified therein. Used to say 72 hours, we said 30 days. So do we want to entertain a consideration to reduce that?
Ed, that's not correct. It currently says 30 days.
Oh, wait, they changed it to 72 and we put it back to
The
30.
last committee changed it to 72 as
Gotcha.
their recommendation.
And
Right,
we added calendar days.
yep,
Again, I just restate what I said in the last one. We put a lot of work into this. We had a lot of discussion on it. The 30 days is there as a protection of the citizens, where if there's a measure that's passed that violates a citizen's rights or something to that effect, it gives them the opportunity then to bring action before the measure goes into effect and before any potential harm to someone that could be harmed by the measure would actually occur. It
Right.
gives them that opportunity. And the argument against it, the argument for the 72 hours, it stems from the Calthrop property is where this all became a big issue, where the town tried to step in with the CPA funds to purchase the Calthrop property. There were concerns about whether or not the town could legally do it, whether or not the appraisals were proper and legal. There were a lot of issues at play. And one of the big issues was that the vote came too late. The folks who computed the time forgot to calculate in this 30 days. So what was thought to be a last minute vote really was last minute and 30 days late.
wow, okay.
So to that extent, the legislature should move slowly, and it really needs to plan things out ahead of time. So, I mean, 30 days is it long? Yeah, it's a long time. I could see maybe 21 days, but 72 hours is way too short. You've got to give people time to learn about these things that are going on, to learn about these votes.
Right.
We don't have a robust media. We just don't have a news media that's covering local events in any real meaningful way. So a lot of people hear about things on Facebook or, at the ball fields or things like that. And then, oh, gee, I heard about this. Now what do I do? So,
Right.
Those are some concerns.
Okay, all valid. Thank you for your feedback on that. So let me ask, is anyone willing to make a motion to reduce the, what we have here from 30 to some other number? All right, and we'll move forward then. Go back. So we're not going to agree with him on this one. Okay, so he agrees with the mid-year budget presentation. Whoops, sorry. What did I do? I hit the wrong
Unless
button.
you read, yeah.
Okay, agrees with the mid-year budget presentation. Reason is it's good. Reason it is good with the example of Community Preservation Committee, blah, blah, blah. So that was just something he agreed with. It's not asking us to change anything. So that's good. He likes the town council appointing the attorney. He said it's great. All right. Review of the city manager should be a 360 review and have a defined period. I'm not sure that that's something that needs to go in the charter, though. I think that would be more in the administrative code. I think we do talk about a yearly review, you know, of the, that the city council will conduct an annual review of the city manager. I don't think we need to get into what kind of review it is and who it's done with and blah, blah, blah. That's my view. Any comments?
I agree with you, Ed.
So not that it's a bad idea, it's just that it's not something I think we agree should go in the charter. Okay, need a formal review. I'm sorry, did anybody have anything else to say on that? I'm just trying to keep some momentum going here. Carlton gave us like
14.
yeah, 14 items, so. Speak up if you feel like I'm going too fast, please speak up. Number 9, you need a formal review policy for the city manager and the city solicitor. I think I agree with that, but again, does that need to be in the charter? Do we need to say that there needs to be a formal review policy? I don't agree with that.
I don't think it's a charter issue. I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
I agree. Admin code.
Admin code. Okay, he doesn't feel the recall provision is controversial. Kind of the same thing that Dennis was saying about the elected clerk, because we currently don't have a recall provision. So this would be an addition. He doesn't think it's controversial. So it's probably a valid point. I was more thinking about the wording of it, but we didn't really go into a lot of detail dissecting the recall provision. I think we kind of accepted it as it was written by the former CRC. So, so this one here, I think we agree with them on that. It's not controversial. Okay, number 11, suggest that we put in the submission letter. It suggests the CRC put in the submission letter to the town council recommendation to expedite the charter review. Oh, so he agrees that we can't take 4 years from the time it leaves the CRC to get it before the voters. So he's talking about some sort of a submission letter that we send. Now, maybe he did this because he was chair of the prior CRC. He put together some submission letter. I'm not sure I'm planning to do that. I think what I'll probably do is, you know, give them our presentation and a copy of the charter. And there might be something in the presentation that says follow-up items or further additional recommendations from the committee. And this would go on that slide, but I'm not gonna draft a special report or a document that I'm gonna send to the town council unless somebody else wants to do it. I don't, you know, feel that's necessary.
That'd be like a cover letter.
Yeah, something. I mean, I say we have in one of the slides in the presentation that we just gave, we talk about the fact that, you know, it needs to be shortened. The process needs to be shortened. So, I mean, can you dictate it? It's going to be done within 1 year. I'm not sure you can do that because things come up, right? You can't hold somebody accountable with everything that's going on. So this may be a good suggestion, but it's something that, I don't know, I'm going to leave it green.
It would be, it's not hurting to make that suggestion. You're not
Right, it's just a
saying you
suggestion.
have to, so.
Right, yeah. Probably not a charter issue, but he feels the town council clerk should be in the same office or location as the town clerk. So right now, the town clerk, or the prior town clerk, Ann Holmberg, she had an office right outside Mike Dutton's office. So she was, I'm not sure whether Mike actually utilized her for stuff and gave her stuff to do or whatever, but Carlton is saying that she should physically be located with the town clerk.
And I don't think, as you said, this is not a charter issue, just,
Right, it's probably a good recommendation, but we're not going to do anything with it. Okay, last one, under the town manager's responsibilities, he wants us to add a requirement to present by May 1st of each year a fiscal year work plan defining project schedule, milestones, deliverables, and projected budget he will work to accomplish in the fiscal year. That way the town council can hold his feet to the fire. It makes sense from a capital project perspective and budgeting. This is probably consistent with an annual performance review. So do we feel like we want to put something in the charter that requires the town manager to present by May 1st of each year a fiscal year work plan?
I think the charter already covers oversight of the town manager by the town council. I think if we do this, we may be getting too far down into the weeds of having the charter micromanage the council managing the town manager.
So right now, under section 4-2, it lists the town manager's responsibilities. And there's like 26 items under that section that, you know, delineate everything that he or she is supposed to be doing. So this potentially would be item number 27 if we chose to add it.
Yeah, I guess my point is it's a good idea, but again, this gets into managing the town manager and how much do we want the charter to drive that boat? And how much do we want to let the town council drive that boat?
Yeah, so obviously, I think one of the reasons this has come up because the council has felt that they don't have authority over the town manager. And part of that is they don't understand their responsibilities. They need training, which supposedly they're going to get now. Matt's going to set something up. So this is kind of I think a reaction to a council that has been weak in its oversight of the town manager. So I think you may be right, Scott, that, you know, maybe this is it necessary? I think I would be okay with adding it in, but I'm okay with leaving it out. So unless someone makes a motion here to add something like this, then we'll move on.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. It's, you know, in, out, it doesn't matter, but I think it's a good idea for the council to do.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion? All right. If not, we're gonna label this as a good idea. I'm just gonna stop briefly here real quick. Cleone, are you leaving at 7:30?
I leave at 7:55.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. I wanted to talk, before anybody leaves, I just want to talk about the rest of the month and kind of what I'm thinking in terms of meetings and stuff. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take a brief pause at like 10 of 8. We might have to extend tonight's meeting as well. Okay, Lauren Webb. She thinks the 5-year limit is too long, so we changed that to 3. So we've done that. And she also agreed with Carlton that the council, how councilors having to sit out 1 term before being reelected. So at this point, we're saying we don't agree with that, right?
Right.
Okay. Carol Chafee likes the mid-year budget review, wonders why the town council or whoever didn't want that in the charter the last time. This was taken out, I think, by the Rules and Procedures Committee, actually. Town manager 3 years or 4 would be better than 5, so we've changed that. Concern that there could be new town council members coming in and expecting them to review the town manager before they've been involved, staggering in conjunction with elections. Yeah, so she wanted to make sure that we didn't have a situation where, you know, half the council was leaving at the same time the town manager was leaving or something, and that there wouldn't be enough feedback to give the town manager a review or something. So I don't think there's anything here that Carol mentioned that necessarily belongs in the charter. Anyone agree or disagree on that?
Do we have anything in the charter that's not a charter thing to have a mid-year budget review? Is that already in there?
It's already in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so much in there now. Can't
I
remember.
know it's hard to remember. Yeah, but we put that in there.
It is okay.
Yeah.
So we agree with what she.
Yep, she thought it was a good idea.
Okay.
So, okay, so we'll move on to Chris. Chris said 5 years is too long, no shorter than 3. Continuing staggering the terms. So the terms for the city manager and the city attorney should not be the same. They should be staggered. And again, the problem there would be if they both left at the same time, it would be problematic for the town because the body of knowledge and expertise in those two individuals, you know, would be a hit if they both left at the same time. And likes the idea of staggering so they both aren't leaving at the same time. So I think we did say staggered terms, right?
They don't start on the same day, right? Like that's a highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely because they're both under separate contracts. The contracts, you know, so if that ever did come to be, you know, the council president would have to take notice and would have to ensure that they were somehow staggered, you know.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, if they were the same day, every 15 years you'd run into the issue, but if they don't start on the same day, in my opinion, the staggering is not gonna make much difference anyway.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that is it for getting through the 5:15 public forum. Thank you all for your patience on that. Bear with me here, I'm trying to get organized. So the next item, I think I sent you guys an email, was on the discussion we had last time about shall, right? I don't remember exactly how we stumbled on it, but there was something somebody saw and we looked at shall and we said, oh, should that be changed to must or should or may or whatever, but we had that discussion and I did send you guys an email, right? That we found 434 occurrences.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was just going to be undoable or not doable for us to go through and change all those because it's not a global change. All the shalls don't become the same word. It might be different depending on the context that it's being used in. So we could certainly make a recommendation to the council that this is something that we didn't have a chance to look at, but you know, they may want to consider looking at it and changing it. So are you guys okay with that?
Some shells should remain shells. I mean, they're, you know, so you have to look at them each individually if you were going to do that. So, but I wouldn't change back what we already changed from shall to must. I keep what we've changed.
Right. Keep the ones that we have in there, but not do any more than that at this
And
point.
if we happen to come up with one when we're reviewing, you know, but don't go out of your way looking.
Right.
That
Right.
makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so that'll be something that we'll recommend to them as a sort of an open item that we weren't able to address, but we feel you know, they need to discuss it anyways. Okay, so that leaves us in a position now where I think we could begin to have our second round of voting for our final recommendations. I haven't thought a lot about how we're going to do that, and I guess I'm open to any suggestions that folks may have. One thought was we could just kind of walk through the charter. I mean, as you notice, the charter, everything that we've done is in green. So, one approach is we could vote on the general requirements that we had listed in the presentation, kind of vote those yay or nay as a whole. Each individual item, like we could do city, just do one vote on city, and that cares for all the occurrences of city. So we could do all the general ones, and then we could just kind of walk through, and anything we see in green, we just re-vote on that. To me, that seems like the simplest way of doing it. But I'd be willing to entertain any other possibilities.
Do we have to go vote the same way we did the first time? Meaning, if there was a motion to do X, Y, Z, the motion has to be made again to confirm that we're going to do X, Y, Z? Or could we go through and just say, we're looking at Article 1, Section 1. Do we still agree with these changes, yes or no?
So I'm not sure we want to vote like by section, like take all the changes in one section and just have one vote. I think what we should do is kind of walk through each section and vote on each individual change, because that's the way we voted on them initially. Right, Tom, like say term limits, right? We spent a lot of time on that and we voted on the revised language to term limits.
Right.
But we wouldn't want to vote on that as a globally with other things lumped in at the same time, right? We'd want to vote on that separately.
Well, right, but like, so in the right, like you could do a paragraph by paragraph if you had to.
Right.
Right. I'm just thinking if you count up all the green things you have, Ed, you're going to have a couple hundred voting items, I think.
Well, I mean, that's probably how many votes we've taken. If we go back and look at the minutes.
Right. No, I
Right.
agree, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's the most, given that we are now on a more of a time crunch than anticipated, right? I think having this discussion should be brief anyway, but redoing all 200 vote, call it 200 plus votes when you could narrow that down to 50 might be more beneficial, right? Like you're going to vote on the term limits piece by itself still, right? Because it's a segregated portion within an article, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying at this point, since we don't have another real document that we can look at, I mean, we could go back and look at the matrix, but I'm not sure the matrix is going to cover everything necessarily. To me, to be pure about it, I think we should actually all walk through the charter together and vote on those items that we changed. And it is what it is. So, I mean, we have a meeting scheduled for the 16th, and that would be our last, if we just went with that would be our last meeting. We are on the agenda for the 29th, the town council meeting, to present. So sometime between the 16th and the 29th, we've got to put a presentation together and kind of review it together. So we're probably going to need to schedule a meeting maybe for the 23rd. That would be an extra meeting to review the presentation and make sure that we're all okay with it. Can we complete all the voting on the 16th? That's a question. I don't know. I mean, we have 2 hours, or if we even extend the meeting, are we going to be able to get through all the voting on one night? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I know everybody's got things going on or whatever, and as long as we have a quorum, we may have to have multiple meetings this month to get everything done.
And when we go through this, we've been doing it for so long, and it's hard to remember the beginning of the charter to the end of the charter per se. Not saying that we have to read line by line by line, but when we're going through this, you know, we might have the opportunity to find something that we might have missed.
That's true.
Or,
Yep.
you know, no longer agree with because we change, you know, it's, so it would be important to go, it's like proofreading something. You gotta proofread it again, after you made the changes, proofread it again. That's
Right.
my opinion, that we need to go through it and make sure we're not missing anything, even
Right.
punctuation, you know, but
Yep.
that's my thoughts.
Okay.
So would we be able to meet the next 2 Wednesdays? Because the 23rd, I'll be traveling and I won't be back until the 30th.
Okay. I mean, I will meet whenever the rest of the committee will meet. So to me, we you know, we're just about, we're on the 9, yeah, we're on the 10-yard line here, and we got to cross the finish line. So whatever it takes to get this done, we're going to have to do it, unfortunately. But as I said, as long, not everybody has to be here, but as long as we have a quorum, we can vote and get things done. So it would be nice if everybody could make it. But so today's the 2nd. If we could meet the next 2 Wednesdays, maybe the 9th and the 16th,
I'm just
That
getting the
would-
calendar.
you know, and if we could
I'm on
get,
vacation, unfortunately.
Okay.
I am on vacation and I return the 16th. I'm not sure if I'll be here on time, but I'll be home in time for the meeting.
okay. So when are you gone the whole week of the 7th and the 4th, you're back on the 16th?
Correct.
So any days we meet next week, you'd be unavailable anyways, Cleone, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Scott, how are you feeling schedule-wise? Are you able to?
Yeah, I
You
should
flex-
be able to make that. I know we've got some changes in youth sports, but I can at least call in.
Okay. And Darren, you said you're not around on the 23rd, but maybe are you available the 9th and the 16th?
Yes.
Okay, and Tom?
The 9th, yes, the 16th, I can try to be. I teach that week, so it's tough.
Okay. Would a different night be better, or just that whole week is
That
bad?
whole week is just tough. Like I might just be late if we start at 6 o'clock. I work on West
Actually, I'm
Coast time
mistaken.
when I
I'm here at
teach.
9. Yeah, I'm actually mistaken. I am here the 9th.
Oh, okay, great, Cleone. Okay. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get through the whole charter in one meeting. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to cut ourselves short. So if we don't need extra meetings, great. But I'd like to at least know what's doable at this point if we have to. And then the 23rd, again, let me tell you what my plan is. I'm kind of jumping ahead here. So let me get back to the agenda. We've talked a little bit about the round 2 of voting. I mean, we could start some of it tonight, I guess, but we've only got 15 minutes. So I'm thinking maybe we don't get into it tonight and we start fresh next week if we meet on the 9th. But as far as new business and the prep for the final readout, what I was planning to do was take the public forum presentation as a baseline. And since that had a lot of good information and was kind of structured nicely in terms of how it laid out our recommendations, maybe go a little bit deeper in some of the things than we did with the public forum, but I was going to use that as a baseline and then tweak it. So if everybody seems to think that's a good idea, then I'll move forward and start working on that. And I can send you guys some drafts and you can give me feedback if you want individually, especially like Cleone. If you can't make the 23rd, then maybe you can call me and we can have a separate discussion about it. And you can give me some feedback on it. But on the 23rd, we need to kind of go through it and finalize it and then say we're ready to go on the 29th. It would be nice if everybody could join that meeting. I don't know if it's going to be a Zoom call or now if they're starting to meet physically. So I can let you know that's a Tuesday night, 7 o'clock is when the council meetings start. So it would be nice because I think the council will give some recognition to all of you for your time and effort that you put into it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Any comments, feedback?
So the only comment I would have, Ed, is, and this is a request of everybody, myself included, if we could all take the time between now and like Monday, read the charter, and if we have things that we've identified individually, send them to Ed by like Monday morning, and then we could have a compiled list of like to tackle items quick at the front of the meeting, and then run through the rest of it in quick votes at the end.
It's a good idea. Yep.
So we're not sitting here reading during the meeting, like know where you need to go.
Yep. I'll send out the latest version of the charter from tonight the changes I've made. I'll send that out either tonight or first thing in the morning, so you guys will have it. Again, and everything in green is what we've changed. Anything that's not in green is what's in the charter, or what was in the baseline. So it's only the green stuff that we're addressing. Janet, how are you feeling?
And I don't have anything this month that would inhibit me from attending to any of the dates that we need.
Okay.
So, and
Oh.
I just feel like we do need to, we can do it like Tom said and read, but we do need to proofread.
Yeah. Okay. I want to apologize to Josh because I should have started with you, Josh. Can you make?
No, I was actually gonna interrupt you there. So good news is the 9th and the 16th are definitely free. The 23rd, I have a CPC meeting, so I'd be unavailable for that. So if there was another day during that week of the 23rd and you guys needed to meet, I might have some flexibility there. Let me just check my calendar here.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Tuesday and Thursday would be open for me.
Okay. I could do either Tuesday or Thursday, the 22nd or the 24th, maybe the 24th Thursday might be better.
And what I'll do is I will, I'll just mark those as taken, both those
Okay.
days. And then
Okay.
after next week's meeting, if you guys feel that you need to meet that week, then we'll have either of those days open.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to need to meet that week just to wrap up the presentation.
Okay.
So let's count on having a meeting that week. The question is, what's the day? So does anybody have a preference, whether it be Tuesday or Thursday of that week?
So I'll be traveling the 23rd and I'm not returning until the 30th.
Okay, so the 22nd would be better for you, Darren?
Yeah, that was the only possibility.
Okay. Would anybody have a problem meeting on the 22nd?
That works for me.
Great. All right, let's do the 22nd then. Josh, that would be our final meeting. That would be a week prior to the town council meeting. And then we'll meet on the 9th. And if we have to meet on the 16th, we'll keep that open as well. And I want to thank everybody for your flexibility. We've come so far, I just don't want to, I want to end on a good note, you know what I mean? We've done so much work. Let's really finish well.
Ed, I do have a procedural question.
Sure.
So the second round of voting, are we having discussions on things, or is it a quick yes, no vote and move on?
So, I mean, the way we vote is somebody makes a motion and we have a second, and then we have any discussion.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to ask a question or needs clarity or says, you know, maybe we want to reconsider this based on some other information, Tom, I know you don't want to get hung up on certain things, but we got to do what we got to do, right?
I mean, that's fine. I think that's fine.
As long as a lot of new things don't come up. I mean,
That is my concern. I
But-
fully expect that to happen.
but I mean, we've had a couple of new things come up, and I'm thankful that they've come up because they've been good things. So I'd be worried if we only had one more meeting. That would really concern me. Then I'd say, geez, you know, but we have a few extra meetings now that people are willing to attend. So I'm more comfortable now that even if some new things come up, we can get through it all right.
I agree that I don't want to rush through all our work. I don't want to rush through it, as much as it'd be tempting to say, yeah, we've already voted on this, let's just let it slide. But, if it is in question, then it's in question. If we all say, yeah, we don't need to discuss this anymore, then it's going to go quicker than the last few months. But we do need to not rush through approval.
Right. Okay. Cleone, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling well, fine. Everything
Okay.
sounds good.
All right, great. And Scott? You're okay?
Yeah, I think
right.
that works.
Great. All right, well, then I'm going to move on to public comment. Do we have any citizens on, Josh, that I can't see?
No.
All right. So action items for our next meeting. The only action item is going to be, as Tom mentioned and Janet confirmed as well, that everyone please read the charter and take notes. I mean, if you have to print out a paper copy and write notes on it or do whatever you need to do it, because it'll help the process if everybody's prepped for it ahead of time. That would be the only thing I can think of right now. I'll also begin to work on the presentation and send out a draft. Whether I get something out to you before Wednesday of next week, I don't know yet, but I'll try. So our next meeting then is going to be 6/9, next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Is 6 p.m. still the time everybody wants?
That's
Yes.
fine with me.
Yes, please.
That's fine.
All right, 6 p.m. then. So I will entertain, unless there's any other discussion or questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Eddie,
Janet,
you said you were going to send us a copy of the charter that we have now. Okay.
yep. I'll do that either tonight or first thing in the morning. Motion to adjourn?
I,
Darren
Thomas Golden,
Boston.
motion to adjourn the meeting.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Any discussion? All right, thank you all. Great meeting. Appreciate your help and enjoy the rest of the week. But Josh, we need to take a roll call.
Ed,
Yes.
Tom,
Yep.
Cleone,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Darren.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
All right.